Did you see those storms we went through in the last episode? If you didn't, you should go check it out, because in today's episode, we are going to talk about some tips and advice on traveling through severe weather with your RV from our own experience. Okay, my phone died and I don't have much time left on the GoPro. So welcome back to No Ordinary Path. I'm Kristen. This is Wendy back here. We are a travel nurse family. My husband John is the travel nurse. We have 3 kids and a dog, and we're traveling the country, currently on contract in North Carolina. Welcome to our channel. We hope that you enjoy it here. This is a Real Talk Tuesday where we talk about tips and tricks and advice, and sometimes we just chat. I looked up on the National Weather Service website and found out statistically that every year in the United States there are about 10,000 severe thunderstorms, 5,000 floods, and 1,000 tornadoes, and 6 named hurricanes across the United States every year. And of those, there are about 500 deaths related to severe weather. So it's definitely something to take into consideration and to prepare for and avoid when possible. It was a pretty epic day of traveling through those storms, and fortunately we never did see any tornadoes. There were no touchdowns in that cell around us that we know of, but when you're driving through it, you have no idea. All you can do is go by what the weather alerts are and what the watches and warnings are around you. So we were pretty freaked out, but very grateful. We did not have any hail damage, even though we did experience a little bit of tiny hail, nothing like the quarter size that was on the weather radio. So we had very, very, very heavy rain and flooding around us, but no damage to Wendy, no wind damage or hail damage, fortunately. We did try to film some tips as we went, and as the storm kind of settled back down, we were trying to recap like what we had just gone through. And of course our first thought is when you run into weather, like what are you gonna do? You're gonna run from it. You're mobile, you have an RV. But there's probably gonna be some times when you're on the road, just like us, where you can't really escape it, where the cell is the size of an entire state and you really can't get away from it. Or you wake up in the morning like we did and the storm is upon you and it's stronger than it was forecasted.
Let's talk about what we're dealing with right now. There's these giant storms, basically from the Gulf all the way to the tops of Louisiana and Mississippi coming through. And we've been kind of running from them all day. We decided to kind of hunker down and just let them pass. We weren't going to be able to outrun them. We thought going south would help because it looked like they were initially going kind of northeast, but now they're just going straight across. So kind of regardless, we're going to get hit. We chose a campground that Kristen found that was actually open. Fortunately, it does not have any internet service. So, because there's not very many other places for us to go, we could, maybe go to a Walmart parking lot. It's hard to say. There's good and bad for each. If we went to a Walmart parking lot, we could potentially take shelter in the Walmart parking lot, or Walmart, if it's even open. Some of them are closing because of the COVID stuff. We came here. The storms, unfortunately, are kind of coming this way too. Nobody really knows what's happening. They do the best. You look at your forecast and that kind of stuff. Generally, we have our cell phones that have all the weather alerts, and we use WeatherBug because we like to watch the radar and stuff. But for backups, I go back to my good old, my parents bought this for me a long time ago. This is a Midland NOAA weather radio, and basically the National Weather Service puts out all these weather broadcasts, and you go old school. There's no more radar, there's no cell phones. Good old fashioned, this storm is coming at you this fast, and it's gonna hit this town at this time, and this town at that time, and this town. Seek shelter immediately. If you don't have one of those, and you like to carry these little walkie-talkies around, some of these walkies actually have the same service on it. This one does not, but this one does. And it's got a little weather button, and I can hit that and find the right channel. It's not as good because it doesn't have the antenna, and I can't let Kristen hold it because she vibrates at the wrong frequency. But if we were out and about or something and I had this, I could at least turn this on too and kind of get the right weather broadcast. We're gonna ride it out. That's why it's so loud and why I'm shouting at you, is because it is coming down. We have camped in an area underneath some trees. which is one thing I suggest to do. You can kind of shelter from hail, which is what this is. Dime size hail is what they're reporting. If you're going to do that, make sure that you look at the trees really well, that there's not giant overhanging branches that could get knocked down in high winds. We checked all that out first so that the Windy is pulled underneath some trees to kind of be protected, but not under any that pose a very high risk of having large branches fall on her. So we're hanging out. We got an hour. The worst of it's supposed to be past us by like 7:15. It is 6:10. Here we go.
Being from the Midwest, we thought, you know, like we're pretty used to storms in Kansas, or we were used to storms in Kansas, but we never expected to be in an RV. You want to make sure that you're not camping next to a water source. You don't want to be next to a creek or low level next to a pond, or like where we were last night in Louisiana, we were in a swampy area. You don't want to be somewhere where flash floods could cause you to be in trouble quickly. And another good tip would be to try to find a spot where you are on pavement rather than on the grass or the gravel. We're in a pavement spot right now, which is actually kind of by luck, but we're really happy that we are here because we're not sinking. You might be wondering why we are still boondocking. A couple of reasons. One, it's very hard to find an RV park right now in the COVID-19 pandemic. To be quite frank, we don't want to pay for an RV park. We really don't like RV parks. The more and more that we travel, we have become a little bit more anti-RV park. Mostly because we're just more comfortable boondocking, and we're very proficient at boondocking, and so we prefer dry camping. Well, now we do like hookups, okay, don't get me wrong. I like hookups, I like showers and water and sewer and power, but I can get all of those things as long as we are staying on top of it. You might have a shelter that you can go to in an RV park, but if a storm is going to hit, it's going to hit the boondocking area just as bad as it's going to hit an RV park area. So as long as you are boondocking someplace where you can seek shelter, then there's not much difference. So we have come here to this campground area, and we are, the other thing is you might want to have a plan to evacuate if you need to. So our weather alarm, if it tells us that we are under a tornado warning, at this point our plan is to get in the truck, to unhook from Windy and get in the truck. And there is a restroom building that's just right around the corner. We can go hunker down in there if we want to, even though it is closed for COVID. Unfortunately, like someone broke into it, so the door is broken. So you can still get into the building. It is a concrete building. We could go stay there and shelter, or we could just shelter and hunker down inside the truck, or take the truck and leave Windy. Those are kind of our options right now. But no matter what, you should probably have an idea and think about that as you're choosing a site, if you're choosing a site during a storm like we are. Something that's handy to have is perhaps some kind of a saw or a way to cut down tree branches. We came across a tree that was downed in the road. We did not have a saw that was big enough to really cut through the full tree, but it would be helpful to have at least something that you could cut away branches should something fall on your rig or near your rig. Here's a couple tips that we forgot to mention, but maybe kind of common sense. You could just hunker down in your vehicle, in your truck, roll the windows up, and you will be safer from lightning hanging out in your truck, and also debris that could slice right through your rig. Won't slice through your truck as easily. Now, if there's an actual tornado, you're going to want to get to the lowest level ground that you can, and that is probably not going to be inside of your truck. So you want to make sure that all of your hatches and all of the outdoor latches are shut and locked so that the wind doesn't blow them open. And you want to make sure your awning is all the way in, of course, and that you have anything outside like lawn chairs or camping tables or whatever, that everything is picked up and put away, as they could become projectiles in very high wind. And since the walls are pretty thin, things can slice through them. Also check above you for the trees and make sure that you're not underneath something that could just come crashing down on you. We were very fortunate that nothing else happened that night, and the next day we were fine and it was sunny and we didn't have any troubles in the rest of the trip. And now we are here in North Carolina. Thank you so much for watching. We hope that you've enjoyed this. If you did, give us a thumbs up, like, and subscribe. Let us know you're new so we can welcome you to our channel. This weekend we'll be airing our final episode of Traveling to North Carolina. Stay safe and we will see you out there.